feel privileged to welcome you all to the second day of the 3-day International Maritime Conference on behalf of the National Institute of Maritime Affairs, under the patronage of Pakistan Navy, which is being conducted to deliberate on the subject of embracing blue economy, challenges and opportunities for developing countries. The theme selected for deliberation in this session is Challenges to Marine Industries and Contemporary Scientific Development. Vice Admiral Asif Humayun joined Pakistan Navy in December 1970 and took over command of Pakistan Navy Fleet as Compac in January 2006. There, he successfully supervised the first ever multinational naval exercise held in Pakistan, Aman 07, involving 27 foreign navies. Between 1986 and 1989, he commanded submarine Shushuk and was awarded 𝐄𝐦𝐻𝐿 military for outstanding performance. During his career, the Admiral has also received Sitara-e-Imtiyaz military and Hilal-e-Imtiyaz military, retiring after 40 years of service.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now hand over the mic to session moderator for further proceedings.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the Session 2, Section 2. I welcome all the flag officers, the retired flag officers, the international delegates, the distinguished guests, and of course, the young people sitting, the students of universities at the back. Welcome to this session. Because this session is just before lunch, so we will try and finish on time and not hold you from your daybreak meal. So I will not dwell on too much on the theme of the session. The name itself is quite descriptive. Challenges to marine industries and contemporary scientific developments. The first speaker we have today is very illustrious Dr. David Middlemiss. Dr. David Middlemiss is working as principal scientist in the ships and dredging team and business development manager for South Asia. He worked as technical specialist, project manager and project director HR Wallingford for over 14 years and worked on more than 60 research and consultancy projects. Recently, in 2018, HR Wallingford and TCI were commissioned to undertake a feasibility study for the augmentation of the existing navigation and channel at Port Qasim. And that is what Dr. Wallingford is going to address as part of his presentation today. Dr. Middlemiss, sorry.
Thank you, Vice Admiral. Senator Saeed, distinguished guests, naval officers, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. H.O. Wallingford's involvement with Pakistan's blue economy began in 1959, supporting the development of Karachi Port. In the 1970s, we were instrumental in the development of Port Qasim. So it is my great honor and pleasure to be invited to speak today at this wonderful event. I'd just like to make a small correction or comment on the scope of my presentation. I'm not going to talk about port design. That's a very broad and complex subject, and I'm happy to discuss that over lunch, which I'll hurry up and we'll all get there sooner. I'm going to talk more about the design of navigation channels, and particularly the application to the work that we did at Port Qasim just a few years ago. So just to give a bit of context, navigation approach channels, they're critical infrastructure present at most ports. Usually they're a dredged channel. Some lucky ports around the world, very little dredging, if any, is required. So their correct design is crucial, mainly from the point of view of navigational safety, but also from the efficiency of the port. A poorly designed channel can compromise navigation, maneuvering, and the throughput to the port. It's also very important from an optimization of dredging quantities point of view. Good channel design will minimize that, and dredging is expensive business. There is industry best practice guidance when it comes to channel design, and that was a working group led by 𝐻L Wallingford a few years ago now, which set the baseline, the international benchmark, if you like, when it comes to how you go about designing navigation channels. A note of caution there that although the guidance exists and it's a good document, it's well put together, experience and competence is required in its application. And hopefully you'll see why as I move through. Next slide, please. So I don't think I need to give too much of an introduction to Port Qasim, but in terms of port context, it's nationally significant, if not internationally significant, as a port facility. It handles large vessels already, with a wide variety of cargoes and commodities as throughput. And there is an aspiration, rightly so, within Port Qasim Authority to develop the channel, increase the capacity, reflecting the changes in the shipping industry and the port sectors in recent years. Increased containerization, the advent of very large vessels, some 400 meters long with 60-meter beam. But this is a challenge. How is the port going to accommodate this change, this increase? It means longer vessels, increased draft, increased beam, and importantly, as we'll see towards the end of this, increased inertia and mass. So the channel design process is well set out by PIMEC, and there's three key elements. The first one, which unfortunately you won't be able to pick up on the slides, is about the needs, the demand. What is the need and demand to increase or modify your channel? We then move to a stage of concept development. So this is where we feed in the ideas, the aspirations, the existing data that's available. Perhaps there's an idea of the design vessel, and we think about how the channel may look at a concept level. Then there's usually a stage of further technical study, once that the concept is set, to modify and refine that into a detailed design. So I'm going to talk about the application of the concept design and the detailed design to the work that we did at Port Qasim. So a key statement to make is that the design vessel is key. That governs the geometry of the channel, its depth, its width, and any special considerations around diameters of turning basins, etc. The design vessel that we considered for our work with Port Qasim is ultra-large container ship, ULCS, 400 meters long, 59-meter beam. So these are large vessels, some of the largest in the world. In terms of Port Qasim, we then need to think about how does that affect the channel? Does it need to be widened, straightened, deepened, and how can the design be optimized? So starting at the concept level, the table there really gives a list of parameters that affect the width of the channel. For example, what are the wave conditions going to be experienced in the channel? How strong are the currents going to be? Is there a requirement to allow vessels to pass, etc.? And once we work through this process, you can come up with a first estimate of the increase in width that the channel needs to have. Effectively, at Port Qasim, there are two channels. There's the outer channel, the Hussain channel, which is exposed to stronger currents and increased wave conditions, which necessitates a slightly wider channel than you have in the interior. So how does that look? Probably the best thing you can do is pick out on the colors there. So the blue represents an extension in the length of the channel to accommodate the deeper draft. The green areas show that dredging is required, and the yellow areas show where the channel needs to be widened. There's more detail there on the slide in terms of positioning of aids to navigation, etc., but it gives you a plan at least to work with at a concept level. We repeated this analysis for the inner channel, and the width that is determined is about 250 meters, which is about 40 meters less than the outer channel. And we can see exactly the same sort of analysis there. This time the pink area represents areas where passing would be possible, particularly when we have the larger beam vessels accessing the channel. So moving on to the second stage of the work and the best practice, if you like. You've developed a concept design of the channel Now it needs to be validated and tested. And PIMEC is very clear in its recommendation that that is through simulation, and that is also needs to consider varying operational conditions. So we're blessed at Wallingford with having a world-leading ship simulation center, where we can modify and represent in real time the interaction of the vessel physics, the waves, the currents, the winds, and from an operational or practical perspective as a mariner and a pilot, changes in visibility and the visual cues that are ever so important to safe navigation. So I just wanted to share with you one of the important findings of our study when we were going through the detailed design process. And it really emphasized the importance of doing things properly and by the best practice. If a less detailed study had been undertaken, it's very probable that this finding wouldn't have come to light. So the images I'm presenting on the screen show a track plot of a vessel, ULCS, navigating up the channel towards QICT. And on the left-hand side, you can actually see that the vessel starts to step out of the channel. The pilot and the captain are doing their best to control the vessel under the conditions, but because of the increased inertia of such a large vessel and the preceding set of bends at the port, it actually becomes quite a challenge with these potentially larger vessels that are being considered for the port. So this came out in the real-time simulation. We then went back to the design process of the channel, and it's quite clear that you can see there, I've just highlighted where the vessel's stepping out of the channel. The channel needed to be widened. Now, if we'd blindly followed the guidance early on at the concept design, this wouldn't have happened, and straightened. So there are a set of bends before we get to this point in the channel that cause this issue. And you can see that the vessel now is set in a much better way, approaching the curve. So there's the summary there that I'm giving is really about the technical considerations of the study. But my kind of broader high-level view of this is it pays to do studies properly. It's the right thing to follow the guidance, follow the science. Ultimately, you don't want to have a channel that's poorly designed, compromises the operational efficiency of the port and the future-proofing of the port to accommodate larger vessels in the future, and saving money. I mean, that's what this is about, particularly through the dredging element. So I think that's it from me, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Middlemiss, and very kind of you to finish right on time, which is very difficult to do in 10 minutes. And I'm sure the audience must have learned the technical details, which we have experienced practically while navigating Port Qasim channel. Thank you very much. Now our next speaker is Mr. Javed Iqbal. Mr. Javed Iqbal is the CEO of Shoaib Shipping Agencies and has been connected with the shipping industry for over 3 decades. Mr. Iqbal is also an executive committee member of Pakistan Shipbreakers Association and has represented the ships recycling industry of Pakistan at various forums. He has a keen interest in commercially viable ship recycling activities and plays an important role in working with ship recyclers and classification societies to develop yards in accordance with green recycling requirements. He is going to speak to us on green ship breaking and recycling practices, challenges for Pakistan. Mr. Javed Iqbal.
Assalamu alaikum ji. Respected Janab Mushahid Hussain Sayyid, Chairman on Defence Committee, DG NIMA Ahmed Saeed Saab, respected participants and distinguished guests. It is an honor to be invited to this August forum and share my views on ship recycling and practices. Just a brief on the history of ship recycling in Pakistan, the first country in the subcontinent and second to Taiwan in the world. This business commenced in the early 70s at the NMB Wharf at the entrance to the Karachi Port East Wharf. It was the first country, at entrance to the East Wharf. It subsequently shifted to Gadani in the mid-70s. Some of the yards which were not operating became functional in the last 10 years with the removal of rocks near the beach. There is a potential to develop more such yards and at the same time look for other suitable sites in Sindh, Balochistan. The level of water is deep in Gadani, so the ships are not required to wait for the beaching, unlike in the other countries. It is a low tide beach with a tide level of 3.2 meters. As scrap from ship recycling was the main source of supply for the re-rolling industry and remelting furnaces, close to 250 ships used to be imported annually in the mid-70s. In 1982, Pakistan Steel came into production. A sizable share of raw materials scrap from shipbreaking was taken over by the mills, producing steel billet for the re-rolling mills. Pakistan Steel stopped production in the early 2000s. Presently, the source of raw material for steel bars are the automatic plants, producing grade 60 steel bars, whereas shipbreaking providing about 15 to 20% of the steel requirement in the form of re-rollable and remeltable scrap. Basic raw material for steel re-rolling and steel furnaces and cottage industries / production of wire rods. And with no consumption of electricity, potable water, natural gas or any other source of concern, as these are already under pressure in the country. We save millions of dollars in foreign exchange, which would otherwise get consumed in direct import of scrap, which we are providing to the local industries at competitive prices, despite value addition costs incurred in the process of ship recycling. Shipbreaking commenced at Alang in India in 1983, whereas in Bangladesh in the 2000. Ali Agha in Turkey, mostly smaller ships from nearby in Europe are broken. Already 6 of the yards at Ali Agha are EU certified. So these are destinations for EU flagged vessels. China is not into shipbreaking for last many years. Ship recycling by Chinese owners used to be subsidized by the government at one time. The Chinese yards at Shanghai I visited had shipbuilding, ship repairing and ship recycling within a common boundary. We should aim for similar setups at suitable locations, be it Gadani, Gwadar or any other suitable site in the coastal area of Sindh or Balochistan, as there is immense potential for expansion of maritime industry which should be capitalized, and ship recycling is one of the important segments of the maritime industry. The yards at Gadani are ISO certified, whereas more than 70% of the yards in India are HKC compliant. In Bangladesh, only a couple of yards are green. Now, the way forward is ratification of the HKC, Hong Kong Convention, for which we have the support of Ministry of Maritime Affairs initiative on HKC, the Ministry of Climate Change, the Balochistan Development Authority, and the environmental departments. The research report prepared by the dedicated team from NIMA, when Vice Admiral Abdul Aleem was the DG, on shipping, tourism and ship recycling, covers all aspects of ship recycling such as occupational health and safety, hazardous waste and environmental requirements, including EU ship recycling regulations. HKC is finalized through inclusion of all the conditions, suggestions and reservations for the Basel Convention and International Labour Organization. Certain basic requirements like provision of landfills for the waste disposal by the BDA, the incinerators, have yet to be met, besides issues with the landlords owning the yards. Civil work has to be carried out at the yard. However, in some cases, it is not possible to do so. HKC requires impermeable flooring, huge cranes of over 40 tons capacity, and other requirements, which involves substantial investment, but are essential for the adoption of this convention, which was introduced by IMO in 2009 for the safe and sound recycling of ships. It covers the design, construction, operation, and preparation of ships to facilitate sustainable ship recycling, preparation of inventory of hazardous material on the vessels that are sold for recycling. The requirements of HKC may be seen here. The chart prepared by class NK and covers requirements for ships throughout its operational life. Ship recycling was doing well last many years. Data of imports is shown here on the slide. As you are aware, after June 2022, various factors have contributed to almost a standstill position for our industry, as only 9 ships weighing about 45,000 were imported compared to the corresponding period in the previous year. Tax generated from only one VLCC tanker alone recycled is nowadays about over ₹1 billion due to high price of ships and US dollar exchange rate, major reason being the unprecedented fall in Pakistan rupees. It is about 273 in the interbank today. There is increasing the cost of conversion and taking price of tour bar to a very high level of over ₹250,000, which is not affordable for the common man. The low-cost housing sector, who are the main consumers of tour bar produced from ship recycling. At site LCs are not possible. The alternate is 𝐄𝐦𝐛𝐫𝐚 LCs for 90 to 180 days DA, if these can be opened at least. Maybe some quota is fixed for LCs of ships for breaking, so at least a beginning may be initiated. In this regard, Chairman PSBA Mr. Diwan has placed this proposal before Governor State Bank of Pakistan. The yard numbering 132, among these up to 100 yards, these are owned by the local landlords, and 32 yards are owned by the Balochistan Development Authority, who recovers tonnage fee on all ships that are beached. Additionally, there is infrastructure cess imposed by the Balochistan Revenue Authority, which obviously amounts to double jeopardy and is a burden on this industry. We are blessed with an excellent location and infrastructure, with size of the yards about 4 acres, surpasses the sizes of the yards in the subcontinent. The time taken for dismantling a ship is much less compared to ship-breaking locations elsewhere. Hopefully, with resumption of demand and stabilization of the economy, we can exceed the 1.6 million tons broken in 2017-18 and continue to provide Lloyd's-tested raw material to the re-rolling mills, besides providing employment to the over 25,000 workers directly when the industry is working on optimum level, lakhs of people indirectly, and contribute millions to the national exchequer. 16 billion was paid in the year 2017-18. As dry bulk freight rates have fallen, which used to be exceedingly high, so also for the containerized cargo. So nowadays, it's a good opportunity to import these vessels at a lesser price, because tankers are not available due to the substantial increase in the freight for oil. Let us hope the economic situation is normalized so ships for recycling is resumed. HKC is ratified, our yards become green, as we are losing good percentage of potential candidates to the green yards. Revival of Gadani is vital to the economy, particularly Balochistan province and downstream industries depending on it. including transport sector, oxygen plants, hotels, scrap markets all over the Pakistan. We are also looking forward to the commencement of Pakistan's single window operation for clearance of ships. So all NOCs are streamlined into one window and precious time curtailed. Okay. We hope the 10th Maritime Conference, a segment of PIMEC, will promote green ship recycling, and we are able to overcome the numerous challenges posed by the downslide of economy and falling reserves due to the circular debts. There is a chart on requirements of Hong Kong Convention. It shows the construction, operation, preparation for recycling, and mentions about the ship recycling facility plan and the development of ship recycling plan SRP. It has been prepared by NK Class, which is one of the leading classification societies, who is working on certification of these yards in the other countries. Some pictures of the ships arriving at outer anchorage, where these are inspected by Pakistan Maritime and Environmental Protection Agency, and thereafter proceed for beaching. There are a few pictures of the yards and the facilities for the workers and for the safety. These are tanker ships, bulker, dry cargo, and passenger vessels. This is the inside of a passenger vessel. This one had 1,400 passengers and 600 crew. One of the largest which has come here. This is the second one. These are the picture of yards showing the water tanks and other safety requirements, the tower for the firefighting, the containers for the hazardous material, and so on and so forth. The winches which are used for pulling the vessel when it comes near to the beaching yard. The impermeable flooring, as you see, this is the requirement of the HKC, the ambulance, the hospital, the fire extinguishers with reserve. These are the cranes we have, but we need bigger cranes, much bigger cranes for HKC, like they have in China and other places. This is the picture of the office, the labor quarters. This is the foam water tank. Foam is used for the firefighting. This is the supply of oxygen for the gas cutting.
Thank you, Mr. Javed Iqbal, for this expose on Gadani Ship Breaking Yard. Without further ado, I will call Mr. Osman Munir, Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer of KOTUG. Mr. Osman is currently working as Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer at KOTUG. He has been working at KOTUG since June 2007. He has worked for 14 years with KOTUG and has built an impressive resume, which you will see during his presentation, on challenges to TUG's design toward port efficiency and associated scientific development. Mr. Osman Munir.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be here, to get the opportunity to share some of our experiences. So today I will focus on especially port efficiency. Bear with me, the presentation will shortly come online. Also kind of proud to be here. Although I've been born and bred in the Netherlands, being a Dutch national, but also proud to have Pakistani roots and to be able here today to present something which hopefully will also be beneficial for Pakistan. All right, before I head into the presentation and how to increase safety and efficiency in ports and terminals, I would like to kick off with a small company introduction, so you all could know who is KOTUG and where do we come from. This is the agenda. So next to the designs, a lot of expertise and tools, but this will come in the presentation. Brief introduction of the company. It's a family-based old company. It goes back actually to 1911, so more than a century in tugboats and maritime field. This is quickly our vision and mission. We want to be the leading towage and maritime service provider in the world. Of course, to help our clients and exceed their expectations. We are brief on our values, where we stand for. Obviously, teamwork, people, equipment, but also company sustainability. And of course, not to forget, we want to also have some fun and pleasure to work on this. This is our portfolio. Next to towage, we have a subsea arm. We have an intelligence arm, which I will explain a bit more in the presentation. Training and consultancy, and also maritime excellence, where we develop a lot of innovations. This is our fleet. As you can see, we have a range of assets, from small to harbor tugs, terminal tugs, to offshore vessels, to crew transfer vessels. So it on a fleet's more than 100 assets, so quite experienced and knowledgeable on operating of these kinds of assets. On the designs, this is what we call the rotor tug. This is a bit different than typical conventional harbor tugs. This is a tug with 3 azimuth units, which provides a lot of safety and contingency elements. So we've been quite successful in utilizing this in ports. Here a brief overview in which ports and terminals we operate these vessels. As you can see, especially in Europe, where the world busiest ports, Australia, Africa, in the US. With this type of design, we are quite successful. So next to an efficient operation, it also provides a lot of safety features, which is obviously very important. Well, this is an overview of available design. Basically, depending on the port's requirements, every design can be tailor-made. We do this together with Robert Allen. Robert Allen is a well-known designer of tugboats in Canada. So together with them, based on the requirements and needs, we develop a tug which depends on the size, but also the power requirements. Nowadays, of course, very important sustainability, green options, what we called. We are also developing on that part, so hybrid tugs, what we call. At this stage, we already have 2 hybrid tugs operating based on a battery pack, but other also plans are going to execute this year from our side. For example, like methanol dual fuel tugs, hydrogen. There are a lot of investigation going on. So this is very important. Next to the safety, but also from the emission parts in ports, where we see a lot of new regulations will be coming in. And on this side, we have already developed a lot of knowledge and trying to implement this as soon as possible. This is another development I quickly want to share with you. Just recently, we have developed an inland concept. In Europe, we have a lot of inland waters, but also parts in the world, also in Pakistan. So this is a zero emission concept we have developed, which is a modular electric inland pusher vessel, which will push, let's say, the barge over inland vessel. It will be zero emission and it will be sourced with battery packs. Here you can see it's a quite modular concept. So with all the components we can easily construct it, assemble it. It can be done at any place. You don't need typically a shipyard in this. So some of them already are active and hopefully soon will be followed. So this will be totally based on zero emission. Important training. Yeah, we have developed that in-house. We have in-house a training company where we focus, of course, on the requirements of the industry itself, but also we find it important to do it internally. So we have developed a lot of courses for this and quite successful, especially also in this region. And also for Pakistan, we are looking at close cooperation with MTI to develop this further for Pakistan seafarers. What we have done for the training, we have developed an assessment application. On the slide you can see a snapshot, but basically we can measure and monitor every movement and every training skill set which has to be performed. So it gives a quite an objective measurement and also the skill set of every individual. Yeah, manpower resource, of course, very much important. We have developed a lot of programs for this. So next to the training for seafarers, also a lot of training for onshore personnel. So we are quite successful in this, and also here, let's say for Pakistan, would that be a necessity? Yeah, especially on the local content part. Like I said, we have rolled out a lot of training programs, and in the mix to do this also for Pakistan. We have a dedicated training tug where we train the person. As you can see, it's a small tug, but it allows the opportunity for trainees to get a glimpse and a feel how to manage, let's say, the skill set. And at the same time, once they have done the training on the training tug, we bring them, let's say, to our operations so that they can gain more experience on handling tugs. Simulation studies, similar like this, where we provide this for training purposes, but also for ports, especially when they are looking into marine service, what would be the best efficient setup for this? We provide that as well. Yeah, quick on technology and digitalization. Data is key. Let's say in-house we have developed our own tools, an ERP system, which is based on real-time, so as offshore as onshore, which allows us to have real-time data and to adequately monitor and steer our operation to increase the efficiency. In line with this fuel consumption, every vessel of us has a fuel consumption system on board where you can literally follow the fuel consumption in every move. As you can see, there are a lot of data graphs which is available, so real time, so we can monitor and also train the relevant people in this purpose. So every job which has been done can be rewind, it can be re-evaluated, so every item of the operation, critical item of the operation, you can assess and evaluate and learn from this how to do this for the next moves. Another element in this, we have also developed an automatic dispatch tool, especially for port, artificial intelligence, where we optimize and planning, let's say, all assets in the port. You can imagine in a marine service in the port where you have tugboats, pilot transfer boats, line handling tugs, terminal tugs. This system can plan all together automatically what is the best planning in terms of fuel consumption, in terms of efficiency, but also not to forget emissions. So we can also monitor the emission output to make sure what is the best option and solution for every port. This we already rolled out in several port authorities in the States, in Europe, in Australia, which brings a lot of benefits. Yeah, in Pakistan we have a cooperation with Dynamic Engineering, Mr. Wajmir, which is our partner here. And like I said earlier, we have a cooperation with the MTI Training Institute. Please visit the simulator. I think it's in Hall 1. So together we are developing a training program to offer this, to bring our international expertise and to plug it in, let's say, in Pakistan. Well, this is a glimpse of it given the time. Hopefully you get an impression on us, what we do. Happy to connect later on. If there is anything, please reach out. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Osman Munir, for this insight into the tugs and tugging operation. After three narrow technological maritime applications, starting from the channel design, ship breaking, and tugs, I have a fourth narrow application presentation from Engineer Captain Albai, I would say, Engineer Albai, retired Ibrahim. I will not say Captain Navy because we are all Navy anyway. Engineer Captain Ibrahim is graduate from Naval Academy in 1985 and Naval Postgraduate School, USA in 1991. He holds a master's degree in electronics engineering. He served more than 30 years Navy career in Turkish Navy as electronic engineer. He has also worked as a consultant and domain expert on naval combat systems. He serves right now as head of proposal management directory at Millsoft company. He will speak to us on combat management system approach for naval platforms. Engineer Captain retired Ibrahim, please.
Good afternoon. I am Ibrahim Aksu. Thank you for this nice introduction, sir. And I would like to salute all distinguished guests, also respected participants. Please accept my deepest respect from Turkey. And in Turkey, we are having very troubled times in those days. Before this event, we investigated the situation, but since it is Pakistan Navy invitation, we managed to come here, and it is my privilege to talk to you about combat management system approach for naval platforms. It is going to be a different approach since until now, which is in the view of defense and in the view of naval concepts. I would like to share my experiences, also my knowledge. My main topic is the importance of having a command and control capability indigenously in the country. Why is it required? You know, the threats are evolving and in maritime domain, and it requires new concepts and new requirements, modern system approach, and integrated solution for Navy assets of all sizes, types, and as well as headquarters. What are the threats? Anti-piracy, anti-drug, illegal trade, border security, search and rescue, and covert operations need command and control of assets from either ships or ground-based headquarters. Such operations required to have a reliable and effective base of command and control functionalities, allowing the ships or headquarters to send tactical situation and command assets and receiving status from the assets, which is called in the operational area as situational awareness. Situational awareness is very important. So, importance of command and control capability is very crucial. Command and control capability includes more than just hardware, which is a cost item can be procured from any vendor. It includes other much more important aspects such as war concepts, training, intelligence reports, and data exchange mechanism among assets in operational area. Mainly emphasizing that command control is the main tool for decision authority. Okay, I will. Command control is the main tool for decision authority to direct military forces using software programs. Since superiority in command control procedures having an advanced command control system have been an important factor during the conflict between nations, improving indigenous command and control capability has become a major goal of many countries. On the other hand, arms transfer to third nations historically have been used an important instrument of diplomatic, military, and economical policy. Especially, the transfer of command and control capabilities is becoming an important element of this transfer and being used to support international objectives of the developed countries. The international objectives can be summarized as follows. The first one is they want to keep control of specific regions, regions and nations in accordance with their own objectives. Secondly, deterring aggressive moves of those nations, obtaining access rights to military and secret facilities in the country, avoiding and triggering some conflicts in specific region or nations in accordance with their own objectives, keeping the region or nation military capability in the level of that does not jeopardize their own military operations in the future. And also maintaining the authority over preventing the systems to be enhanced and transferred to other units and assets. And also maintaining technology superiority over those nations, controlling technological design and production capability in these countries, having rights to decide for technology transfer from those countries, and financing their own defense industries using income from those countries. Considering those facts, having an indigenous C2 capability, other than transferring and procuring it from developed countries, would become a crucial decision and bring this, a lot of advantages to the government in the country. In summary, governments will have the following political and financial advantages if you have your indigenous command and control capability, which are no embargo risk from developed countries, no dependency to another company. You can develop your own critical algorithms, national algorithms, and security measures, which cannot be known by any other country or any other company. And indigenous C2 capability can also be used in other countries' platforms in the region, and this can be used as a power for countries. After summarizing these facts, I would like to share my experiences about combat management system approach for the naval platforms. First of all, it should be an open architecture design. Interoperable, it should be interoperable with other platforms. It should collect, process, and disseminate the data at the right time to the right people. Task force implementation and decision support capabilities should be incorporated. And what is open architecture? Open architecture is defined in NATO like this. In the first two columns, you see the competing environments and common functions. And then these first two columns provides the interoperability between the systems. And as MISOT, as a Turkish company, we are working with Pakistan Navy more than 10 years together with our Pakistan naval colleagues. And for us, Pakistan Navy is our brother Navy, and we are working together with them efficiently for more than 10 years. And we developed our new generation combat management system, and the main capabilities are summarized on the slide. And it has a layered architecture, technically, and you see in the middleware encompasses the hardware from the software. You know, the improvement in hardware is much more faster than the software. And if you use this middleware, you can change the hardware without touching the software. And also this brings the advantage of no dependency to any other specific hardware. These are the crucial factors should be incorporated with your design. Also, command and control capability should be incorporated with tactical data links. Why? Because tactical data links provides the capability from platform-centric warfare to the network-centric warfare, which is a crucial in wide area. And it provides right information at right time to the right person. And what we did since the establishment of MISOT, we developed all NATO standard links, ADAT P3, JREP, Joint Rate Extension, and also MIL-link. What are those? These are the link capabilities that being used by Turkish Navy, and also it can be extended to other nations also. And also another approach is network-enabled weapon. With this capability, the missile in flight can be part of the link network. So you can control the missile in flight, you can change the target, you can change the engagement capabilities. And also I would like to go very fast because of the lunch break. And these are the capabilities. And also we can provide ad hoc IP communication network to the in operational area. And these are some information about our capabilities. And I will go very fast about this. And this. And also, this one is also important. For situational awareness, unmanned vehicles is also very critical components. So we should integrate unmanned air vehicles, unmanned surface vehicles to the command and control systems to make the intelligence operations in timely manner. And these capabilities should be in cooperation. As summary, these are the combat management system capabilities that any combat management system should have. And also, as a final word, I would like to emphasize that as MISOT, we are ready to make any kind of cooperation with Pakistan government for C4I area. And I think it's okay. If my message is okay, then I would like to finish my wording. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Ibrahim, for this very detailed presentation on combat management system. Now, after the 4 narrow technical aspects of application of technology in blue economy, we are going to have an integrated lecture from Dr. Jianlin. If I start reading the qualifications of Dr. Jianlin, it will take the 10 minutes of his speech. So briefly, I will say academician Jianlin is a leading international marine geophysicist and member of Academia Europaea. He has made distinguished contributions to global ocean sciences. Presently, he is a chair professor of the Southern University of Science and Technology, China, and he has a lot of international exposure, including being a faculty member at MIT and Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. He has received the Grand Prize of Ocean Science and Technology Award in China. And I will be amiss if I didn't mention this. He played a critical leading role in the first China-Pakistan joint expedition to the Northern Indian Ocean in 2018, which laid the important foundation for assessment of tsunami and earthquake hazard, as well as exploration of marine resources at the Makran coastal region. Dr. Jianlin.
Thank you very much. Now, as I understand, I am the last one between you and your lunch, so I need to be brief. And secondly, I understand also our audience have some students. So this is a story for you. It's for the future of Pakistan and for everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the critical role of science and technology, especially higher education, in future blue economy. Now, before we start that, let's talking about the ocean. You say, oh, what a big deal. Of course I know the ocean. But do you know how much water we have on the surface of the ocean? Not that much. If we have a huge machine to suck all the water out on the surface of the earth, that's all we have. So we have water on ocean is very limited. It's huge in area, but it's very little in volume. So that's a key point. Especially if we look at the fresh water, that's even less. The green ball on the top is fresh water, and then compared to the moon. So what does that mean? Means the value of water on Earth is very important for us, but it's very, very little. Especially the water we can use is that tiny, tiny green ball on the bottom. Right, then you say, Professor Lin, that's all the water we have? No, we have about 7 or 8 times of this water, but inside the earth, in terms of minerals. So we only get those through volcano eruption, which we don't have very frequent. Now, the other issue, of course, is the ocean is connected. We only have one ocean. Means if we pollute it in, say, Karachi, someone's going to get the pollution sometime later. It will take about 7,000 years for all the ocean to recycle once. Very short time, only 7,000 years. So we need to deal with the ocean issue globally, not locally. Now, today I'm going to share with you 3 points. Number one, I'm going to share with you what is the global marine power. And secondly, talk very briefly about these emerging industries, right? And that's where the money is going to be made. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about why it's very important we have high-tech innovation, higher education, as well as investment. Innovation, education, and investment. Those 3 things going to change China, going to change Pakistan and other countries for the blue economy. In terms of the maritime cities, as we know, the largest maritime city is Singapore. Singapore has the largest port in terms of containers. But many cities now in China also has a very large port in terms of container. I only list 3 countries. These are we call the superpowers in its own way. The United States, where I stayed for 40 years as a student and then as a professor at the MIT and Woods Hole, is still the science and technology superpower. That is very clear. Singapore is a leading maritime capital city globally, but UK is also very important because UK has an important role in shipping and law, especially finance. In terms of key sectors, we all know some of these are our, you can see in the slides here, marine fishery. Now, if you are a student, you say, oh, fishery, my grandparents have been doing fishery. But you are only halfway right. Today's fishery is very different. The future fishery, we are going to use tons, the huge containers to do the fishery in the open ocean. So you need to be highly educated to do the fishery in the future. And of course, we know the wind powers and others. I'm not going to talk about these. Now, next, I'm going to introduce to you briefly about China's blue economy. The marine GDP in China in 2021 was 1.3 trillion US dollars. It's a huge economy. And out of this, and you can see that Let's see. Next, okay. So among the growth of this, but it's not even. The largest growth, as you see here, is marine power, wind power. Wind power is extremely powerful in China. The many coastal cities, this grows by 30%, 30. So it's incredibly strong in growth. And also, in terms of city, the largest marine GDP is in Shanghai. It's 147 billion US dollars. It's huge. And in terms of province, just like you have province here, Guangdong province in southern China has a GDP of 293 billion US dollars. So it's very important. It presents about 20% of the national marine product, about 16% of the regional GDP. So if you say the blue economy is important, just look at this. Look at the city of Shenzhen, for example. It has 44 billion US dollars. And the goal is to double it, to double the blue economy in a few years. Next, please. So in terms of the emerging marine industries, as we know, that there are things like gas, right? Hydrocarbon, gas hydrates is very important. And also mineral deposits are very important. Of course, with the carbon neutralization, the sequestration of this is also very important. So these are all the future. So if you are young scientists, if you are young student, you need to pay attention to these major issues. And then I already mentioned wind power and also biomedicines is going to be important for the future. And finally, I'm going to just say a few words. If you are a young student today, as you might be in Barahi or you might in University of Karachi, which I both visited about 5 years ago. And I would say the high tech, higher education, and the investments are extremely important for the future. And here I'm showing you an example of what has been developed in Shenzhen. There are 13 drums. They work together. They can do any form of sampling. So they like a dragonfly. They will go down and take samples and they will go back. So you say, what a big deal. Why is it important? Because that means we can sample one location anywhere on the coastlines, unmanned, 24 hours a day. And think about that for the future. And then also for the ocean depths, we can use these gliders. Gliders can go out for about a year or so without recharge. So in the future, the coastal lines of McCrane's and others will have these gliders and it's going to do the job for you. And finally, I'm going to say, okay, you say, Professor Jian Ling, but that's too far away from me. But I would say not too far away. Because if you are a student now, then you will need to be aware of these issues. And then I'm going to show you, here's a picture of Shenzhen, a part of Shenzhen. The city is now building an ocean university called the Shenzhen Ocean University. I am the head of the person building there. This year, we are going to invest $1 billion US dollars on campus just to make the buildings. But once we have the campus, of course, it's important we have professors. We are going to attract professors globally from US, Europe, anywhere. But we also like to attract students, including students from Pakistan. Because the students in Pakistan, I know many of them. You are the future of Pakistan. So if we can, we will provide opportunities for you to study either there or here. And finally, we hope that by doing this, we are going to transform Shenzhen into a city like Boston. I stayed in Boston for 40 years. And you can see the MIT play a major role because it's only educate students, but also change the industry. About 50% of the industry around Route 128 were by MIT professors and students. Think about that. If in Pakistan, one day, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you have a city which have high manpowers, and then that's going to change Pakistan for good. This is a beautiful university that we are doing right now, we are building right now. So finally, I would like to appreciate the help of my Pakistan partners, especially Dr. 𝐓𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷, who was the former DG of NIO, National Institute of Oceanography. We came here in 2017 for the first time, but 2018 we brought the ship, Chinese ship here. 5 years on now, we have some even newer ship, and then we hope that we'll also bring here, but it's even more important for you to build a ship, because that's your science, your oceanography, and your future. And this is my last slide. So I will propose that we do two things. I will propose to our honorary senator that we should work together to really to educate the next generation of Pakistani scientists and students. That's the future of Pakistan. Myself, 40 years ago, was a graduate student in the US. You see, now I learned how to do things. I went back to China to help China. We have a lot of young scientists here, young students here. You can do the same. And secondly, I would like to propose to the admirals that we should sign new agreement with NIMA, because we can specifically help NIMA and the students here. So with that, and I would say that with high-tech, higher education and investments, we can lead the future of blue economy in China and in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jianling, for this very encouraging and uplifting lecture. Now the floor is open for 2 quick questions. And please keep your questions as brief as possible. Thank you. Commodore Khalid.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Thank you very much for giving time. And with the permission of chief guest, there are certain comments which are with respect to the previous session. And there are no questions. There are certain aspects which I want to bring into the knowledge of the rest of the audience. And there is one aspect which I want to continue from our Chinese friend, which he has said. Okay, sir, coming back to the previous session about the MSP, Marine Spatial Planning. For that, I would like to add that the factor which has been shown is that data evaluation is one of the very important aspects in that. Without data evaluation, you can't do the zoning. In that data means the data of the biodiversity, nutrient, tidal behavior, depth, pattern, each and everything, and the strategic development goal at the national and the provincial level. All these things basically come into part towards zoning. And once you bring all this data, then there is a new concept which is being followed by many countries, that is MSDI. That is Maritime Spatial Data Infrastructure, which is in fact bringing in all this data at one platform, creating the accessibility and the provision of that data to the academia and the policymakers at one place. So we can save on collecting data again and again, and we should be able to unlock the potential of the data and bringing that data towards the knowledge. So that is a precursor, that is MSDI, sir. The second thing which I want to share, that MSP is not a new concept totally. Previously, integrated coastal zone management used to be there, and that was being talked a lot in Pakistan. Unfortunately, we could not implement it into the policy. And from here on, my recommendation towards the end will be that we must include the development of the MSDI in our recommendations and the formulation of the MSP setup, so that the stakeholders at the provincial and the national level, they should come together and talk about. Why I'm saying this thing? Because of the 18th Amendment, there are certain things which have gone to the provinces. You need to bring it to it. And sir, last point about our Chinese friend. I would like to ask the gas hydrate extraction technology, what is the stage at the industrial level? That I want to know. But we are very grateful to our friends, Xi'an 3 they brought, and that became a precursor that we, the Pakistan Navy had an MOU with the China Geological Survey, and based on that MOU, we have conducted 3 resource mapping expeditions in our area, and alhamdulillah, we have collected good amount of data which can be very good for our future planning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Commodore Khalid, as you know, is the leading hydrographer of Pakistan Navy. So, Dr. 𝐄𝐦𝐿𝐴, can you please tell us that what kind of proof of concept we require, because we have a very good quantity of gas hydrates on Makrang coast, and that is the question he asked. Can you give us some detail on that?
Okay, so I'm going to be very brief because, again, as I mentioned, I'm mindful of your lunch, right? So we are very glad we made a historic trip here in beginning of 2018. Now that was a breakthrough. Why it was a breakthrough? Because it was so hard to travel from China all the way to here. But once we have done that, the same year we have this second ships to come over. So that means the ground could be break. After it's a break, then things go very fast. To directly answer this question, finding the resources, gas hydrates in Makrang change, which we now have definitely identified, yes, there are BSR here, which means the gas hydrate. But how to extract that will require different type of ships. So I will propose that the Pakistan Navy and the Chinese counterpart will continue to collaborate, and using that kind of new technology come here to see whether it can start actually extract some of these out instead of just let it stay down there forever. Thank you.
If there is there another question? Yes, please.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। मेरा नाम सैयद दाइम शाह है। मैं सदर एक्वाकल्चर फार्मर एसोसिएशन पाकिस्तान, और मेरे को बड़ी खुशी हुई है कि 96 या 98 97 से मेरा दोस्त जो चीफ गेस्ट बन के बैठा है सैयद मुशाहिद हुसैन सैयद, और साथ में डीजी साहब और जितने मेहमान आए बाहर मुल्क से, सबको वेलकम और खुश आमदीद। सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, ख़ास करके जो हमारा इस वक्त कॉरिडोर के हिसाब से या चाइना, मेरे साथ चाइना के नायब सदर और उसके मिनिस्टर एग्रीकल्चर वालों ने भी जूम पे मीटिंग की थी कुछ दिनों पहले, और वर्ल्ड बैंक वालों ने भी मीटिंग की है 3-4, लेकिन सब मीटिंग करके पाकिस्तान को अकेला छोड़ के चले जाते। इस सेक्टर में हमारे से वियतनाम भी आगे, ये क्यों? हमारे से दूसरे ममालिक भी आगे, हालांकि हमारे जितने भी नेवी वाले और भी जितने भी समुद्री इलाके हैं, ख़ास करके हमारे कराची से अली बंदर तक 70 क्रैक हैं, वो 350-400 किलोमीटर लंबाई है। तो उसमें बहुत सारे मीठा पानी भी आता है, उसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें बन सकती है और बहुत सारे اس میں ہمیں بہت سارے چیزوں نے تنگ کیا ہوا ہے. خاص کر کے ایک بات ہے قطرہ جال, جو باریک جال ہے جسے نسل کشی ہوتی ہے. اس میں ہمارے پلہ جو اہم مچھلی ہے, جھینگا, وینامی, شریم, ٹائیگر یا اور بھی جتنی بھی شیبت وغیرہ جتنی بھی ہے, وہ سارے کے سارے وہ گند میں بیچتے کوڑوں کے دام میں. کروڑوں کے مچھلی نسل کشی کر کے. سر خاص کر کے میں ڈی جی صاحب کو یہ عرض کر رہا ہوں کہ یہ بات غور سے سنیں کہ کیونکہ وہ کچھ ہی ٹائم میں جب جسٹس پیس تھا تو میں نے بھیجا تھا فشری والوں کو, تو ادھر ڈائریکٹر کو اغوا کر دیا تھا. ڈائریکٹر سندھ کو اسلم انصاری صاحب ابھی میرے ساتھ بیٹھا تھا, اس کو بھی اغوا کر دیا. اتنے وہ زور آدمی ہیں. تو مہربانی کر کے یہ کرے, اور جتنے بھی پڑوسی ملک ہیں ہمارے, جتنے اگر اپنے آپ کو دوست سمجھتے ہیں ہمارے ساتھ, تو اس حالت میں بھی ہمارا ساتھ نہیں دیں گے. اس حالت میں بھی ہمیں وہ کچھ گرانٹ نہیں دیں گے. اس حالت میں بھی ہمیں کیج کلچر نہیں دیں گے. اس حالت میں بھی ہمیں اگر پولیٹین کا سسٹم نہیں دیں گے. اس حالت میں صرف باتیں کر کے چلے جائیں گے تو پھر ہم تو آگے نہیں بڑھیں گے. کیونکہ ابھی اس وقت ہمارا سویابین چیمہ صاحب نے واپس کر دیا.
شاہ صاحب, آپ پچھلے سیشن میں تھے, وہ فیصل افتخار صاحب آئے تھے, انہوں نے میری ٹائم ایکوا کلچر پہ, میرین ایکوا کلچر پہ بڑا اچھا لیکچر دیا تھا, اور انہوں نے یہ بھی بتایا تھا وہ ہیچری بنا رہے ہیں, سب کچھ بتا رہے ہیں. آپ کے سوال جو, اگر آپ نے سوال اور کامنٹ جو دیا ہے, جو ہمارے مہمان خصوصی ہیں سینیٹر سید مشاہد حسین صاحب, یہ اس کا جواب دیں گے. Before I conclude the question answer session and the session and request the chief guest, I would like to present special thanks and heartfelt compliments to Dr. Middlemiss, Mr. Javed Iqbal, Mr. Osman Munir, Engineer Captain Ibrahim, and Dr. Jian Ling, and of course Pakistan Navy, who has brought us together on this platform during IMC as well as Exercise Aman and PIMEC. What a wonderful platform has been offered to us for exchange of these great ideas, and see some of the technology, especially if you go into the hall number 5, I think hall number 4 or 5, where all the fishery people are exhibiting. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to really interact and take business ideas with you from here. And I would also, I will be amiss, although I am myself what we call in Urdu, inka namak khaya hua hai. نیما کا بھی جو پلیٹ فارم ہے اس نے جو ہے نا اس ونڈرفل کانفرنس کو ارینج کیا ہے, اور اتنے ٹاپ لیول کے جو ہے نا اسکالرس کو یہاں پہ بلایا ہے. واٹ اے ونڈرفل گیدرنگ وی ہیو ہیڈ. Thanks to National Institute of Maritime Affairs. All of us have been put much wiser and really reinvigorated about blue economy. Thank you, and now I'll request our chief guest, Senator Syed Mushahid Hussain, to conclude the session.
Thank you very much, Admiral Saab. پہلے میں سید دائم شاہ صاحب آپ کو تھوڑا سا مختصر جواب دے دوں. آپ نے کہا کہ ہمارے دوست جو ہیں وہ کیا کر رہے ہیں, کیا وہ ہماری مدد کیوں نہیں کرتے. قرآن شریف میں ہے کہ اللہ تعالیٰ ان لوگوں کی مدد کرتا ہے جو اپنی مدد آپ کرتے ہیں پہلے. تو یہ آپ واضح کر لیں کہ چائنا جیسے ہمارا درینہ دوست ہے, انہوں نے سی پیک کے ذریعے $26 ارب کی انویسٹمنٹ کی ہے. انہوں نے پچھلے 4 سالوں میں $22 ارب کے لونز رول اوور کیے ہیں, اور انہوں نے آپ کے لیے 28,000 اسکالرشپس دی ہیں آپ کے اسٹوڈنٹس کے لیے. انہوں نے 85,000 جابس جنریٹ کیے ہیں سی پیک کے ذریعے, اور سی پیک کے ذریعے آپ نے 6,000 میگا واٹس کی بجلی بھی پیدا کی ہے. آپ کے صوبے تھر میں جو منصوبہ تھا تھر کوئلے کا, ایک خواب تھا. اب میں پچھلے ہفتے تھر گیا تھا تو خواتین جو ہیں وہ ڈمپر ٹرکس چلا رہی ہیں. 100 خواتین, 1000 ڈمپر ٹرکس ہیں وہ چلا رہی ہیں. کوئلہ نکل رہا ہے کانوں سے, उसकी बिजली बन रही है और बिजली नेशनल ग्रिड में जा रही है। गवादर पोर्ट भी उन्होंने बनाया, उन्होंने जिंदा किया और उन्होंने चलाया। तो ये आपका जवाब हुआ, बाकी बात कर लेंगे। Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very productive session since the morning, and we have had excellent presentations from different specialists in different fields. And I'm very grateful to all the participants, and again to Captain Ibrahim, our heartfelt condolences on the earthquake in Turkey and also in Syria. And you can see the whole Pakistani nation is mobilized. I've had a long-standing relationship with your country also in with the Turkey, and when there was a Gülenist coup attempt against President Erdogan in 2016 in July, I was the one who sponsored the resolution in the Pakistan parliament, and we were the only parliament to support Turkey. And then I led an all-parties delegation which called on President Erdogan in Ankara, and we had a long meeting with him for 90 minutes. So we have us, and we wish you good luck in the forthcoming elections. I just want to make 2 points which are very there. One point pertains to China and the other one pertains to Rotterdam, because we have an international. Dr. Jianling has come from China, and I'm very happy that he studied in Boston. He came back. I studied in Georgetown University in the School of Foreign Service in Washington, D.C. And in those days, I also I was lucky. I was nominated by my university to go to the Naval Academy Foreign Affairs Conference at Annapolis in Maryland. And I addressed there was a students' conference. So I had my first exposure to the Navy when I was a student in Georgetown. So I think it's very important. China. There's a book by a former Vice Premier, Li Lanqing. He was Vice President, Premier under Deng Xiaoping. And when China started the reform program under Deng Xiaoping, who was a short leader, who had been removed 3 times, and who had one of the greatest visions of the 21st or 20th century, he said we should learn from 3 countries: Singapore, Philippines, and Pakistan. And Pakistan, Li Lanqing was sent, and his book is called Breaking Through. And I will recommend to Admiral Said, please have the book in your library in NIMA. In that book he says, because this is relevant to Karachi port, 1982, Li Lanqing comes as a civil servant, as a technocrat to Pakistan. And he is impressed with Pakistan. He says, look at Pakistan port, Karachi, 14.5 million tons every year in 1982. While at that time, Shanghai port, 8.5 million tons per year. Fast forward to 2002. Shanghai port and Karachi port. Karachi port is 26 million tons. Shanghai port is 260 million tons. So, you know, they were learning from us 40 years ago, and now we are learning from them. So I think secondly, Osman, you are from Rotterdam, at this port. There's an article which should be read by everybody who wants to know about the maritime economy, published in May 2009 in the American publication called The Atlantic. It's a monthly, published from Washington, D.C. Every month they have an article. The article in May 2009, you can find it on the internet, is by Robert Kaplan, who's one of the leading persons who links geography with geopolitics and geoeconomics. He writes an article after his visit to Gwadar. And what does he say? In May 2009, before CPEC, before BRI, he says, Gwadar has the potential to be the Rotterdam of the Arabian Sea. That is the important thing. And it is going to be one of the great cities of the 21st century. So this is the potential that we have. To exercise that, we have to have it on our own hands. Commodore Khalid has given a very clear perspective as a specialist. Others have also done that. I would say that finally, I would like to repeat for the purpose of the media that the conclusion is I am presenting this 5-point plan for the Pakistan blue economy to take off and get cracking on that. Number 1, establish a national seabed authority. We have 50,000 square kilometers expanded of the seabed continental shelf, And now we should have a strategy for that. Let's have a government authority for that. Number two, the Ministry of Maritime Affairs, MoMA, should have a secretary from the Pakistan Navy, just as the Ministry of Defense has a secretary from the Pakistan Army or the defense production. That is extremely important because the awareness of the blue economy cannot be, I'm sorry to say, with due respect to all the civil servants, it has a specialized job. The Pakistan Navy, they have fire in their belly, they have a clarity of vision and will, they will take it forward. Somebody who is from the Pakistan Navy. Number two. Number three, there should be a work plan for the blue economy put on the, because the blue economy is now on the radar, and this work plan should be for 2023, and I've already offered to Admiral Saeed and the Pakistan Navy, the National Institute of Maritime Affairs and our think tanks and our Indian Parliament, we can take it forward. Develop a work plan, what we are going to do to promote the blue economy in 2023. And number four, establish a task force for the blue economy. The Nike slogan is, Dianli, you know that, just do it. Don't wait for the files to move. Don't wait for NOCs. Don't wait for these bureaucratic procedures. Just do it. That's the Nike slogan. So I think let's just do it. Establish this task force. And it's an issue. It's more about ideas, issues, and initiatives. The money comes later. The money is there. You will have a lot of investment. China will invest. Rotterdam will invest. Osman will invest. Ibrahim will invest. Others are there. So that's money is not an issue. Issue is the mind. Our mindset has to change. We have to do a strategic course correction from sea blindness to maritime awareness. That is the key. And finally, point number 5 on my action plan for the future, media workshops in Gwadar, in Ormara, in Karachi, and Port Qasim, or these areas for this awareness on the blue economy. So I think the time has come to take it forward. This conference has been extremely important in not just promoting awareness, but focusing on specific issues. And I thank the Pakistan Navy for taking this initiative. And I thank NIMA especially and its dynamic chairman, who in a short time has transformed NIMA. NIMA was in hijab for a long time, hiding. Nobody knew about NIMA, but now you have launched it also. And inshallah, with the support, we in the parliament and also other stakeholders will give full support. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and all the best for the future. All the best. Thank you. After this food for thought, the food is ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time for souvenir presentation ceremony. I request the chief guest to acknowledge the esteemed speakers by presenting them with conference souvenirs. Director General, National Institute of Maritime Affairs is also requested to join for souvenirs presentation ceremony.